eventually.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning and welcome to the debate show. I'm your host, B.A. Got James Martin with me and Jack Hirsch. I hope you gentlemen are doing fine this morning on this morning of November 22nd. It's sunny here in Detroit. I don't know where it is, how it is over there by you guys, but it's cold though. But whatever. All right.
Down in hot Atlanta, the weather is actually pretty good. So it's about maybe 73, 74.
Go figure. Anyway, we are going to get right into our debate questions. And the first one today is, who is hurting their legacy more by the coaching job that they have done this season, Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick?
Yeah, guys, I'm not calling an audible here like on this particular question, but it has to do with both guys. And what we could add in is a secondary thing. What was a worse decision made by Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick? Pete Carroll during the Super Bowl, not handing the ball off, to Marshall Lynch at the end of the game, and having Russell Wilson pass and it got intercepted by Malcolm Butler, or Bill Belichick while the Patriot secondary was getting torched in the Super Bowl by the Philadelphia Eagles, keeping Malcolm Butler on the bench, refusing to play him the following year. Which was a worse decision? Who was more stubborn? Maybe that's something to get into a little bit if there's time. But to answer this question, I mean, both guys are having a hard time this year. Who's having a harder time right now is debatable. The Raiders have been awful. They've underachieved. They haven't been good at all. We knew they were in a tough division, and the Raiders were the consensus choice to finish in last place. I mean, you had the Chiefs, you had the Broncos, you had the Chargers. Was anyone picking the Raiders to beat one of those teams out? Not many people were. So they were consensus last place team. Is Pete Carroll really hurting his legacy by being where he's supposed to be? On the other hand, with Bill Belichick, he signs up to coach North Carolina. The state is going crazy. They're getting this icon. The first possession of the first game of the year, they take the ball down the field and they score. People are thinking national championship contender. They're going crazy that Belichick's going to work his magic and then the wheels fall off. The wheels fall off. It becomes a soap opera, even more off the field than on it. They have a losing program, even though periodically they show us something on defense and we might think maybe they're moving in the right direction. I mean, with every loss, Bill Belichick is hurting his legacy a lot more than Pete Carroll's hurting his. And then on the other hand, guys, does Pete Carroll really have a legacy that a lot of people care about? No one's talking about Pete Carroll. He's not in the news all the time. Oh, Pete Carroll's messing up. Is Pete Carroll an old dinosaur? Should he be fired? Has the game passed Pete Carroll by? No one's talking about that. But Belichick is front and center all the time, partly because of his girlfriend. But then again, if if Jordan or whatever her name is, I forgot for a second,
Jordan,
was
you got it.
Carol's girlfriend, people wouldn't care as much. But with Bill Belichick, because he's such a lightning rod and because of his 2 decades of phenomenal success as the Patriot coach, and people who were saying he was the greatest coach of all time are looking at this and now they're questioning it. They said he didn't win with Cleveland. He didn't win at New England after Brady left. He's now winning at North Carolina. So with every loss, he is hurting his legacy. Just like if Bill Belichick made North Carolina a national powerhouse, he'd be boosting his legacy considerably. I think because it's Bill Belichick and his personality is so much bigger than Pete Carroll's, I think Bill Belichick is the one that's hurting his legacy, more and more with every loss.
Man, look, at first when I looked at this question, I thought maybe it could be a 1A, 1B type of situation where both are probably hurting their legacy because they're both in dire situations right now. I mean, you presented a very good question. It's a very thought-provoking question. But the more I think about it, the more I delved in and did some research, Bill Belichick's not hurting his legacy. He's not hurting his legacy at all because he's got a tremendous one. He had help, mind you. I mean, with Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady went on to win a championship, and he didn't win one without Tom Brady. But he's been to 9 Super Bowls. I mean, that's just 9 with New England.
New England.
As a defensive coordinator, he won 2 in New York. So he's really got 8 Super Bowls. 8 Super Bowls total as a coach, whether he be defensive coordinator or head coach. He has a great legacy. I mean, I get it. I mean, you're a boxer. You're the ultimate champion. You're fighting too long. Do you hurt your legacy? That sort of thing. I mean, I disagree, though, because, again, everything's intact. When it's all said and done, Bill Belichick is a Hall of Fame coach, no matter what. He's not hurting his legacy. The legacy that's going to be hurt here is probably Pete Carroll because he created, he doesn't have such an extensive resume as Bill Belichick. Mind you, he had some minor success with New England he won a couple of playoff games, and then went to USC and just spawned brought greatness back to USC. They went to 3 championships, won 2. Obviously, there is some stuff that went on, that vacated some of their wins, and including the championship. But you really can't take that away because, to be honest with you, almost all these guys have paid guys under the table. And, in football, it so happened they got busted. And so, with that said, that legacy there, and to me, with USC is intact. But then he goes on to Seattle and creates an even bigger legacy. Seattle didn't have winning like they did there prior to that. I mean, they were okay. They've been to a Super Bowl under Mike Holmgren. They didn't win, but the Legion of Boom, man. I mean, it's something they created there. They had great. They spawned these guys from ground up and won and had created a great legacy there. Mind you, it might have been a little tainted by the play call that he called by passing the ball at the end, and they could have created a dynasty had they won 2 Super Bowls. But through an interception, that was just unwarranted because the guy that got you down there all the way down was Marshawn Lynch. Hand the ball up a couple more times, you're almost certainly, assuredly in the end zone with a touchdown. You got 2 Super Bowls, and you got a major legacy intact. He's got 172 wins, 128 losses, a tie, and 11-11 in the playoffs, including the Super Bowl victory. You go to Las Vegas. You take one of your quarterbacks. You revitalize his career in Seattle, and a 35-year-old Geno Smith now. He's not doing great. The offensive line is not doing great. They're 2-8 right now. They drafted a running back, Ashton Genty. It's a bit of a disappointment right now. I don't think he's going to be in the long term a disappointment, but as of right now, if you had to gauge the success of the Raiders versus the North Carolina University, I would say it's worse with the Raiders right now because they just don't look good. They're last in their division. Um, I don't know, and then they drafted pretty heavily. They invested in their running back. It's just not looking good there. And you typically, unfortunately, the Raiders' past is not really one that you would say that you would be a person to go there and have success. I mean, they won a couple. In their highs, they at the peak of their moments with the Raiders, they won a couple of Super Bowls. They've been to one. The last time they had any type of relatively great success, was in 2002 when they had Rich Gannon as an MVP, and they had the old wide receiver duo in Jerry Rice and Tim Brown, 40-year-old and the 36-year-old wide receiver that did great. That was, to me, that was like the reincarnation of Sam and Dave and the R&B group, the two singers that you knew from Stax Records. But with that said, after that, 2016, player wild card ousted. 2021 wild card ousted. They had abysmal seasons between there, and so their lows were pretty low in the valley of dysfunction. And if you were a player to try to go to the Raiders or a coach, you were only going there because you either had a bad reputation or you were towards the end of your career and you needed someplace to go to get your last ditch effort as some level of payday or no success, because it was just not good. That's just what the Raiders were noted for. And to me, this situation here, it doesn't seem any different. With Pete Carroll going there to take over as their head coach, you took over a dysfunctional organization. I mean, they're one of three organizations to me that seem very dysfunctional, including the Browns and the Bengals. And they're not far off with the Raiders. And so, to me, going here instead of going to another team that probably could have used you, like maybe the Saints or somebody else, or Atlanta, it seems like, okay, this is kind of on the tail end of your career, and this will definitely tarnish your legacy more so than Bill Belichick because of his high level of success.
So you give coaches a pass if they take over a bad team and they do bad. The reason they get jobs is because the team was bad. They're expected to turn things around. Coaches who have success are rarely fired. I mean, Brian being a Detroit Lion guy, that was a rarity when they had Jim Caldwell as a head coach and he had a winning record, and they fired him. Dumb move, at the time. But that was a rarity. Okay, Pete Carroll took over a bad rated team, and they weren't that bad. In all honesty, they did make the playoffs under an interim coach, Rick Bisaccia, who they foolishly moved on from him because Antonio Pierce had a little bit late success as an interim coach. They foolishly, stuck with him because they didn't want to make the same mistake they made with Rich Bisaccia after he took over for John Gruden, who was forced out. So they didn't want to make that mistake 2 times in a row, so they stuck with Antonio Pierce. But they got Pete Carroll, obviously a very established coach, obviously a Hall of Fame coach. I don't need you, James, to say, well, Bill Belichick's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. Good gosh, that's news you're breaking? Come on. Obviously, the Hall of Fame was made for coaches like Bill Belichick. But these high-powered coaches that take over a program are expected to make an impact. They're expected to make a change. We see it with your old coach, Sean Payton, with the Denver Broncos. He made an impact immediately. We're seeing it with Mike Vrabel with the Patriots. He made an impact immediately. They're expected to be difference makers. And
hold on. The only problem I have with that, when you bring in the Broncos in, it's not like the Broncos didn't have any level of success prior to Sean Payton arriving there. I mean, and when I say that, as early as having a couple of Super Bowl appearances.
They fired Paul Hackett.
Yes, but it wasn't good during that time. My point is, it's not like they hadn't had recent success. In 2015, they went to a Super Bowl. They went to 2.
Away at success 5-6 years before. I mean, you're living the past. You probably want to defend your New Orleans Saints to people by saying Drew Brees took them to a Super Bowl. Come on.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the Raiders, their last level of achievement was way back in 2002. They've been
They won
abysmal.
the playoffs under Rick Bisaccia.
But they stunk it up. Even though they got to the playoffs, they didn't do anything with it. They didn't do nothing with it. They got ousted twice in the wild card. I mean, so it's not like you could almost count.
Carroll was supposed to improve them, and he didn't improve them. But people don't care that much outside of Las Vegas. Let me ask you this: if to the average football fan, I guess college and the NFL are different. We got to take that into account. I understand that. But if North Carolina's playing or the Raiders are playing, you get more of a buzz turning into a North Carolina game, seeing Belichick on the sideline as opposed to Pete Carroll. So Belichick, there's a reaction. He's in the news all the time. Carroll isn't. That's the point I'm making.
I think he's only in the news not because of their losing with North Carolina. He's probably more in the news because his girlfriend's on the sideline and they're doing some crazy shenanigans. It seems, and if anything, it's more so to the not to the detriment. It's more of entertainment, and so people probably aren't caring about his legacy anymore unless you're a purist. I mean, they're probably more so caring about Pete Carroll's legacy more so because he's with the Raiders. Again, you're going. It's not like he went to Bill Belichick. It's not like as if he went to another NFL team and made them worse than what they are, or went to a bad organization and made them worse. This is kind of what Pete Carroll's doing. It's a bad organization, and they seem worse with him right now because of what's going on.
Yeah, I get you. I just want to say the last I'm going to say on the matter is this. Years from now, when people talk about the greatest coaches in NFL history, does Carroll's name come up? I doubt it, but maybe it comes up on the back end. Maybe, okay? But Belichick's name is going to come up prominently, whether you think he is or isn't. And people are going to point to all the factors why he isn't, those opposed to calling him the greatest coach. And one of the factors that they're going to talk about is his lack of success at North Carolina unless he turns it around. That's what I mean.
Totally disagree with that. There's no way because it's too much success that he's had, is what I'm saying. It's like, are you really going to look at the takeaway from Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali from what they've done in the latter part of their career, or Roy Jones Jr. In the latter part of their career where they had bad losses? I mean, in their fight, but you're going to take away from that because of take away from what they've done, that like the larger part of their success that was great, that's intact. It's not, you can't take away from that because it's there. It's cemented. It's already there. You can't really take away from that. I think the part where like what could have been with Pete Carroll, he's taken away from his success because he has a more limited base of success in comparison to Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, again, he's got 17 AFC East division titles, 13 appearances in the AFC Championship, 9 appearances in the Super Bowl, 6 of them won. I don't care what he's doing right now. You can play around and be a dud on the golf course or something, and doing something stupid and being in Chuck E. Cheese with his girlfriend or something goofy. It still wouldn't take away from what he's done. It's just way too much. I think the limited success that Pete Carroll had, which was peak, it went up there in Seattle. That's going to be a little tarnished because of what he's doing now, and what could have been with the Super Bowl. Like you mentioned earlier, they could have won 2. The bad call. So yes, I think more so it's going to be Pete Carroll being tarnished more so because he doesn't have as much to offset the crazy stuff that they're doing now. And Bill Belichick has way too much to offset all this craziness that he's doing now in UNC.
I think the problem that we have here is the use of the word legacy. I think more legend or Hall of Famer coach probably should be inserted in this. Now, I think a Hall of Fame coach would probably be more of it's Bill Belichick as well, but it could be used for Carroll. Carroll, when you succeed at something, just because you go to another team that doesn't work out doesn't necessarily mean that you tarnish whatever the heck you did before that. That shouldn't even count. I mean, it counts, but it don't count. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's teams that do this. There's people that do this in other sports that do good in certain situations and go to another team and fail. And it's not just because of the coaching. It has to do with the people that are around him as well. Your ownership is a big part of that. What Bill Belichick did, I think that as far as success in New England, he did with a big part of that being Tom Brady. Now, saying that, you have to pick Tom Brady to be that quarterback, right? So he picked his livelihood after that. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. But
hold on. Let's add in also. He had defenses that helped me. Tom Brady was his rookie quarterback when he won.
Fell into his lap in the sixth round. Come on.
And not only that, let's just say he had great defenses too as well. I mean, that first year they won the Super Bowl. If Tom Brady was great, but he wasn't like exceptional. I mean, he didn't he didn't lose in the game. Let's put it that way. But their defenses that had the greatest show on turf is what helped him win that Super Bowl with the Vinatieri as a kicker. I would say that.
But I'm trying to set up an example here. It's not that he's obviously been successful in any phase of the coaching, that he's had. And yes, he's had some help with it too. We found out when Tom Brady left, he's still a good defensive coach, but that doesn't tarnish the fact that he's been to the Super Bowl so many times. He's been to so many playoff games, and he's been on other Super Bowl teams as a defensive coordinator. So you got to give him that credit. Bill and Pete Carroll on his side, he's been to USC and turned that program around of some sorts because of the whole situation that was going on. And then on top of that, he's been in 2 Super Bowls with Seattle. He got on 2 Super, and they were pretty much a dominant team within a 4-year period. And that's, I mean, is it the legacy of Seattle that you're talking about? Legacy of coaching, period. That's the reason why legacy is kind of loosely used in this whole situation. Legend, maybe. Hall of Famer. I think that both of them are Hall of Famers. I think that Bill Belichick will probably be spoken more of because of his career than Pete Carroll. But Pete Carroll shouldn't be looked down on from that point. He still has been successful in several things that he's done. And legendary coach, I would probably call Bill Belichick a legendary coach as well. I don't think I would call Pete Carroll a legendary coach. I'd call him a Hall of Fame coach, but not a legendary coach. Bill Belichick is a legendary coach. He's like the Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler, those kind of coaches that are legendary coaches. I couldn't put Pete Carroll in that conversation, but I put him in a Hall of Fame conversation. I just think that people play a legacy game a little bit too much. You're not leaving something to somebody else. I mean, really, who is Bill Belichick leaving the legacy to? Jordan? No. I'm just saying. There's a legendary coach and Hall of Fame coach, and I think that Bill Belichick follows both of those as far as legendary and Hall of Fame, and Pete Carroll follows the Hall of Fame. He's not legendary.
And to the viewers out there, I'll say this also. I mentioned Pete Carroll's record. Let's go ahead and mention Bill Belichick's record as well. 333 wins, 178 losses, 31-13 in the playoffs. So it's just, it's hard to really tarnish that. It's hard to tarnish that.
It's legendary. That's what I was saying, yeah. All right. Did you want to pursue your part 2 of that?
No, I'm just going to say one thing what people are going to say. And I'm not disagreeing with James on that point. I mean, the accomplishments off the charts of Belichick's, but they're going to point out, and Rex Ryan has pointed out on ESPN, as great as Bill Belichick is, what's he done without Tom Brady? And they're going to look at everything he's done when Brady hasn't been his quarterback. And the more he loses games, the more it piles up. Of course, if North Carolina somehow miraculously won the national championship, even got in the playoffs, it would help the perception of Bill Belichick a little more.
I'm not saying what's right or wrong. That's more of a hater.
James is right on his point, but I'm just talking about perception.
But I think that's
That's
just a
all.
hater.
We can move on from this question,
Hater
basically.
media. I think that's just hater media. That's what that is. You have the facts based right in front of you. James told you all the facts of what Bill Belichick's career is. You can't change that, regardless of what you think.
No, but they
because
could point to facts of what he's done with or without Brady. They could put it into two different categories. Is it unfair? I'm not sure. To a degree, it probably is unfair, but I'm not sure about the fairness of that.
Yeah, I go by the facts that are at hand. I say that a lot too about Bill Belichick, but at the same time, you cannot remiss the fact of what he has done in his career, because he has done it. It is written in the book. So
yeah.
Anyway. Okay, next question. Do you think Ole Miss is correct to informally give Lane Kiffin an ultimatum as to his coaching intentions? What you got on this, James?
Of course they are. Yes, they are. They are correct. Why? Because as an organization, as a school, as an entity that right now is in playoff contention, and even if they lose a game, they still likely are in playoff contention, even if it's the last entry, because they'll only lose two games. They've only lost one game, and right now you got to look at it from the standpoint of not just the intention of getting to the playoffs. You're looking at the situation. Okay, you have one of the best coaches right now in not only in SEC but in college football right now, and you have players that are on your team that see this. We're trying to get to the playoffs. Does this unravel fabric of a tightly knit unit? People start questioning whether or not their coach is going to be there. You start losing confidence in your team as well. There starts to be rumbling within the locker room. It changes everything. Not only that, you have December coming up. That's intent for recruits, high school recruits coming in. Do they change their mind about coming to Ole Miss because your coach is even going to be there? I mean, I need to probably go to another school now. With some of my other offers, I was going to come here because you recruited me, but you're not going to even be here. And also, you're trying to possibly run up the money. You're going to rivals, SEC rivals. We're going to lose you to. It's not like you're going outside of the SEC to another school. You're going to either LSU. Your ex-wife had visited there. She also visited Florida, and so these are both two teams that I got to face every year. And look at you on the other end of the sideline. Of course, and it's as a business standpoint, you're going to put pressure on him to say, okay, either you're going to be here or you're going to leave now, because this is where we are. These are the things I've just pointed out that we got to start fixing. And if you're going to leave, we got to get the best cream of the crop. We got to try to figure out who's we're going to get to replace you, and before some other school does. John Sumrall out of Tulane, some of these other guys that are available. So, yes, I think I don't have any problem with them applying pressure on him to informally give him an ultimatum, because these are the things that I'm laying out to you that need to happen. And like it or not, Lane Kiffin, you make your bed. It's rightfully so. He has the right to go take care of his family and say, what's the best option out there for me? But name of the game, it's an ugly game, kind of, because again, these are the things that happen. Like your players and everything, they see all this that are currently on a team that's going to the playoffs potentially, that could be unraveled if things go just slightly the wrong direction. So yes, I don't have much more to say on that, except that I agree with Ole Miss in doing this, and I don't have a problem with it.
I have a big problem with it. What did Ole Miss think they were getting when they hired Lane Kiffin as their coach? Lane Kiffin goes here, he goes there, he goes everywhere. It's like the guy who's been married 5 times and his 5th wife is giving him all these rules and regulations, which he didn't follow with his first 4 wives. How does she expect him to act? Come on. Listen, Ole Miss could have done this very quietly behind the scenes. The last thing Lane Kiffin wanted was for this to become public. He didn't want this to become public. It's embarrassing. It does put a little pressure on him, but they could have put pressure on him behind the scenes. First off, Lane Kiffin also, he's entitled to go where he wants to go to as long as he can do it contractually. If he can't do it contractually, Ole Miss, anyone else he's working for, has every right not to allow him to go. I understand the stuff about recruits, but what did they expect? It was inevitable that Lane Kiffin was going to look elsewhere unless he fell completely in love with Ole Miss, and he obviously hasn't. He wouldn't be going to the LSU campus with his family looking around, if that's the case. And for Lane Kiffin, he's playing it close to the vest because unless he's offered a deal elsewhere, you never know how things could fall apart. So this way he's staying at Ole Miss, he looked a little bit, but that's not uncommon. Coaches in high-profile positions do that all the time. They look around. Didn't we just see that with Indiana and Nebraska? Their coaches, they were in the running for the Penn State job. So what happened? The schools, Indiana and Nebraska, gave their coaches extensions respectfully, to keep them on board. And I don't know what Lane Kiffin, whether that would make a difference, getting an extension. Maybe he really does want to go elsewhere. Maybe there are family considerations. Maybe the school should talk to Lane Kiffin and say, Lane, is your family really happy here? Would they be happy at Florida? Would they be happier living by LSU?
Just not to cut you off, but there are considerations. His son plays quarterback, and the wife was looking for schools to see what's best suited for him to play. Obviously, because that's a big deal for them. Their son. But yes, that is a huge consideration for them. And Ole Miss, just so you know, I think they already offered him money. He just hadn't signed it. So that tells you that he does want to leave his options open. And I think he's trying. What he's trying to do is to see who has the biggest offer, because he may end up staying. Who knows? He may end up staying in Ole Miss. But he's trying to see. He's playing the odds and see who pays the most and what's the best situation for his family, like you said.
But they could have kept it quiet, Ole Miss.
They probably did.
It got out.
No, I'm saying it got out because Lane Kiffin is putting them in the corner. So this is the thing. I'm pretty sure they weren't going to just come out and say, hey, we want you to stay here. We need an ultimatum. But he's not giving them any choice because he's doing other things.
Is going on. You want Lane Kiffin to concentrate on football at this point. He has, it's apparent he hasn't made a decision. He might be on the fence himself. And is Ole Miss helping him to stay at the school by doing this, by strong-arming him if he's on the fence? They're not helping him.
But you just said this is a guy that married 5 times. This is like marrying a guy that's married 5 times. So they knew, like you said, they knew what they had. So it's dysfunction on both parts. So they got to figure out a way to be able to try to keep this person if they're going to marry somebody that's been around 5 times.
Another factor too, with all the coaches out there, why are they acting like any one particular coach, in the case of Lane Kiffin, is the only game in town? There's so many other coaches out there who are looking for, positions, and a number of good coaches. Like, for example, he didn't succeed with the Giants, but Brian DeBall would probably be a decent college coach if he went to Ole Miss. I'm just giving an example in his case. Okay.
Yeah, but it's
who should have gotten fired as the Giant coach, by the way. But
it's just not as appealing.
Ole Miss could have handled it much differently.
As dysfunctional as this fifth wife is, it's just not as appealing. As they don't want to go. Probably don't want to go to another. I mean, obviously they would have to go to a 6. But my point is that this one is getting you in the playoff. And so that's a hard one to just try to let go. When somebody like this does great in recruiting, does great has a great offensive mind, and is very charismatic, and can like I said, recruit. And now looks like he's almost on his way into getting them close to a championship. This is about as close to a championship as Ole Miss has been in a long time. And so, of course, you don't want to let that go. I mean, look at. I don't want to get into that. Yeah, I was about to veer into our next question, but yes, I mean, it's just what it is.
I think that I think that you both are right in certain circumstances. Ole Miss is a business. It's still a business at the end of the day. They have to do what's good for their team, their school. If they feel that Lane Kiffin being on the edge and wanting to go to another school because of family obligations or whatever the case may be, I think they have the right to do that because, hey, it's a business at the end of the day. We got to find another coach. A, B, we got to make sure it's a pretty high profile coach so they can get these kids to come to our school. And I mean, I think for both sides, I think it's in Kiffin's interest too, because he's still his responsibility is still with that school. He needs to tell them and communicate to them. This is the whole process here. People spin everything out of media and stuff like that. Oh, they're holding them over a barrel, blah blah blah. No, if there's communication between the coach and the school, and it's constant communication, then there should be no problems. Ole Miss will be either whether to move on with a new coach and get that keep that program going and let Lane Kiffin do his thing. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I think people make a big deal out of this situation more than they should have. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes except for, they put it out in the media, blah, blah, blah. Everything's going to get put out in the media. Now, this is 2025. Come on. There's nothing that's going to be staying within the closed doors too much long. So I just think that both of the parties here are right. I think Lane Kiffin knows that, being a professional and being the fact that he's a coach, he understands these situations. So I don't think there's either a strife between either side. I don't think the ultimatum thing is a big deal. I think it's a business thing where any college would do with any coach. So if a coach decides they want to try to move on, and it's fine. It's just a business decision to me. For both parties. And the ultimatum thing is just whatever. Anyway. All right. Next question. Did the Miami Heat underachieve during the 4 years that LeBron James was on the team? God. I'm going to give this one to James because that's his boy, LeBron.
Wait. Let me correct that. Zion Williamson is James's boy, not LeBron.
No, he's right. He knows that I before Zion Williamson, I have been a tremendous. I'm not a LeBron sexual, as they say out there, but I am a tremendous LeBron James fan.
Awesome.
I mean, ever since his first game in the league, I mean, I was intrigued when he was in high school, and I was like, "Who's this kid that they're like jockeying for?" And he gets 25 points in his first game. I was hooked, and ever since then, I've been a tremendous fan of LeBron James. So I followed him wherever he went, now including Miami when he made the decision. With that said, I'm not a LeBron James apologist. So did they underachieve in Miami? Yes, they underachieved. They tremendously underachieved. While LeBron James, 4 times he went to the finals with Miami, the 4 years he was there. He also went to 4 more years straight in Cleveland as well. And when he first got to Miami, I think he set the precedence of why they didn't succeed, why they underachieved. You're supposed to win not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7 championships. I know it was tongue in cheek, but when people hear that, you put that out there to say that we're just that talented. We're going to come in and dominate everybody now because myself, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and the others, as Shaq likes to say, the others, they should have been much better than they have. Mind you, they probably shouldn't have won both. I mean, I'll even give it to them. I think they as great as LeBron was in 2013 and 2014, the San Antonio Spurs under Popovich was just as great, and they were great. And that one 3-pointer by what's the guy's name?
Ray Allen.
Ray Allen, yes. That pretty much cemented their legacy. I mean, LeBron James got them to that point, but if he don't make that 3, It's over. It's over, and they're 1-3 in his time in Miami is 1-3 in the championship, but two championships out of four that you've been to. Is that bad to go 2-2? Again, it's for another team. I would say no. I would say it'd be great to have that, but because LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade, how they presented themselves, and the debacle against Dallas was just, there's no way Dallas and Dirk Nowitzki should have won that. LeBron James and company choked. They choked themselves out of a championship there. And I mean, just LeBron James just didn't. They shut him down. There's no way he should have been shut down like that defensively. There's no way. He deferred mostly to Dwayne Wade, and Dwayne Wade eventually had to step aside, talk to him, and let him know, like, hey man, you're the talent here. We're talented, but you are the legacy. You're the chosen one. You're the one that's supposed to be leading us here. And then eventually he did. But again, that's going to tarnish his legacy there. And so, yes, I say they greatly underachieved there. And even though they won 2 championships. And that's pretty much all I got to say about that.
Well, we're not talking about LeBron James's legacy here. We're talking about that Heat team, the 4 years.
Well, they underachieved with him on. He just happened to be on the team.
If you want to listen to the hype and the rhetoric, you can say, yeah, they underachieved based on the hype and the rhetoric. You know, him saying, 6, 7, 8 championships. Who really believed that? Who should believe that? Anyone knowledgeable in basketball and team sports knows things could change greatly in 1 year. Look at the Boston Celtics, who, by the way, lost to the lowly Brooklyn Nets last night. Just a year ago, they were heavy favorites to win the NBA championship 2 years in a row. And look what they're at now. The wheels have come completely off. They're not even remotely a contender anymore. Things change. So LeBron James is saying 6, 7, 8. What if he said 11, 12, 13? Are you going to believe that and say, it's disappointing because they didn't get to where he said? They went to 4 finals in a row. And in 2 of those finals, they played a great San Antonio Spurs team who they went 1-1 against in the finals. Okay, they beat an OKC team that had Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook when Westbrook was really elite. And they lost to the Dallas Mavs his first year there after they were up 2-1. And you're saying, well, Dwayne Wade had to talk to LeBron James. Well, Dwayne Wade didn't want to defer the first year. He was the guy in Miami. He was the man. And him and LeBron James are very close personal buddies. At least they were at that time. I don't know about now. Maybe they still are. And LeBron James didn't want to shake things up. If Dwayne Wade told him, LeBron, you got to take these games over, but Dwayne Wade felt he had to be the guy. He'd already won a championship. And he'd have one of the great coaches, and Eric Spoelstra, who was there at the time, is still with the Heat and arguably one of the great coaches in NBA history. They went to 4 finals in a row, won 2 championships. Did they underachieve? I could understand in the minds of some people that they did, but in reality, no, they didn't. It's so hard to win an NBA championship. It's hard to get to the finals. They got there 4 years in a row. They were on the cusp the other 2 years. And you can't say a team at that level of success underachieved. It's not like they had LeBron, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone. I mean, they had Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh.
Yes.
Sort of leveling off the way.
And those guys, respectively, by themselves, were great stars. Those great stars. And these guys are in their prime. These guys are in their prime, though, is what I'm saying. It's not like just Charles Barkley and Clyde Drexler and Scottie Pippen getting together. I mean, these guys are kind of past their prime getting together in Houston. These guys are in their prime, and they got together. They took money. They took pay. That's another thing. They took pay discounts to play together. And so, yes, Jordan and Scottie Pippen, regardless of whether they were brought together organically or not, and Dennis Rodman, nobody ate off them. No, Clyde. Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing. They didn't win off of Michael Jordan. And Chicago Bulls. All right, you want to say it as a team collectively, they didn't win off of them. When they went 6-0, and as fair or unfair as it may be, if you call yourself the chosen one, and
they went 6-0. Wait a second. What about the years they lost to the Pistons?
Well, I'm saying when they got to the championship. Yes, of course they lost.
You don't count that. You don't count that. You only count the finals.
I agree with you. I agree with you. No, I agree with you in regards to losing to the Pistons, because I think if anything, I give the Pistons their due. When Isaiah comes back and say I beat all those teams, that's exactly, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But when Jordan finally got past them, when they got to the championship, we're talking about, you brought up championship during the time when LeBron James and those three were together. They were only there. They got the championship, and they lost 2. And so when Jordan and his group finally got to the championships, they were 6-0. They were 6-0. It's as fair as it may, unfair as it may be. It's what it is when you consider yourself and you categorize yourself as the GOAT. He self-proclaims himself as the GOAT. And that's another thing. And so to say that, looking at what Miami has done, they underachieved because they were supposed to be able to beat those other teams. Like I said, you said how hard it is to get the championship. Well, other people have done it and they've won. They've won. And so, if we have the great one, arguably probably the second greatest player in the basketball history, nobody's supposed to be eating off of you, man. I mean, nobody's supposed to be eating at all. And I get it. They played a great San Antonio team. I mean, San Antonio was a star-studded cast, and they got three Hall of Famers on that team alone. And so it's a great team. But again, you put yourself out there verbally, whether it was tongue-in-cheek or not.
Okay, I think we all agree that San Antonio Spurs team was maybe one of the greatest NBA teams of all time, maybe. So what happens if this scenario played out the 4 years in a row? They beat Dallas, they beat OKC, and then they lost in the finals to San Antonio 2 years in a row. Would they necessarily have been considered underachievers in that sense, the Heat?
Maybe not, because the level of competition was just far too great. And I would say
you're holding the Dallas series as the key thing against.
Without a doubt. And I just think they severely choked in that first series. And I mean, it's not they. I mean, I say it as a team, but we all know it was LeBron James. There's no way. You're way too talented. This is the same guy that was in Cleveland, that at the age of 22, 23, put a team on his back. And B, you already know what I'm about to say when they went up against the Pistons. I mean, that game 5 was just incredible. And they went up against the Spurs, again, the same great team he went up against. I mean, again, that much talent on one player. That's just what I'm saying. If you can do that and bring a team, you can't even name another all-star except Ilgauskas maybe on that Cleveland team that he took to the finals. Virtually, the rest of those guys were bums.
I understand, but we're not talking about the Cleveland thing.
Yes, I'm just saying, and then that's my point. Having 2 other stars, all-stars, on the team with you, and you choke against Dallas, yes, I think they underachieved.
All I gotta say is the only thing I disagree with, but they went to 4 straight championships. I don't know what you call underachieving just by that. I don't care who's on the team. It is hard to go to 4 straight championships. I'm not even talking about Jordan's era. Okay, that's a whole different century. This is the new century. This is with LeBron being a GOAT in this century. Regardless of that, I don't think he underachieved. They went to 4 straight championships. Yeah, they lost 2. Probably not to a very good Dallas Mavericks team, granted, But they lost to San Antonio, who you just admitted is a great team, and they beat 2 other teams. I don't call that underachieving. I don't call that underachieving for anybody. If you can get into 4 championships in a row on one team, that's not underachieving. That's making a plateau. I don't care if your name is LeBron James or not. That's just hard to do for any team. So I don't even underachieve. You know, it's funny because people that have championships, this is what I get all the time as a Lions fan. People with championships, like Buffalo's been to 4 Super Bowls. Yes, they didn't win their 4 Super Bowls. So, yeah. Dude, you've been to 4 Super Bowls. Don't cry to me about that. We haven't been to any Super Bowls. Any Super Bowls. You've been to 4. I can't help it if you couldn't do it and win the game. That's not on, that's not my fault. That's, your team's fault. Same with Minnesota. 4 Super Bowls and didn't win one of them. So, I mean, there's teams out there that get to those pinnacles. And to me, that's achievement to me. You get to the promised land, you achieve.
You just mentioned
that's what you do, but that's what you do.
But you just mentioned Buffalo. To me, Buffalo is like me putting on a nice suit, getting ready in my mirror, presenting myself as this great dude that's about to go walk into Ruth Chris Steakhouse, sit down, look at a steak, and tell them how I want it done and everything else, but I can't eat it. It's got to sit there in front of me, and I can't cut into it or anything. I can't taste the steak or anything like that. I can get inside, I can go in there, but I can't taste a piece of it. I can't taste the victory of success. To lose 4 championships has to be. I get it. You didn't get there, Brian. I get that. But to get there and not win once, that's like being what's the guy that went up against Usain Bolt? Do you know the guy that came with silver that place?
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm having the brain cramp now.
He's American. He's an American.
Yeah, who was busted on steroids for 4 years.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Justin Gatlin.
Gatlin is not just Gatlin. A few of those guys. That's the thing. My point is that to not get that goal, to not be able to get it.
I get it. I get it in tennis, for example. You made me think of Roger Federer and Andy Roddick. They played in the Wimbledon finals 3 years in a row, and Roddick lost 3 years in a row. The first 2 years, Federer owned Roddick in head-to-head competition, absolutely owned them. The first 2 times they played in Wimbledon finals, he completely dominated them. But in the third time they played, it was nip and tuck. It basically went into tennis's equivalent of overtime. And Federer managed to somehow eke out a win. And even Federer felt guilty about winning in a sense that Roddick deserved finally to break through. So even Roddick, to this day, he's only won 1 major tennis tournament, the U.S. Open. He got inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame. But still, Roddick says all he wanted to do is win Wimbledon once, and even though he went 3 years in a row to the finals, it sticks with you for a lifetime, when you lose kind of like that. And if who I think of sometimes, guys, a little bit, Scott Norwood. You're living life as a citizen. Wherever you go, you give your credit card. Once in a while, people are going to make a remark. At what point do you lose patience and say, shut up? You don't mention it or whatever. I mean, it's one thing you got to live with the miss. And the fans in Buffalo, no offense, Brian, James, to New York fans, the fans in Buffalo are the greatest. Just the idea that Scott Norwood can come back on an old timers type thing and they're going to cheer for him in Buffalo. What a reflection on the people there. You got to love them. But, they got lives to live, and that shouldn't define you as a person. But even the athlete has to think to himself, how much it bothers Scott Norwood. Had I only made the kick, how I would have felt the rest of my life, as opposed to missing it. Even though the other guys on the team gave him a pat on the back, we missed plays, which they did. They all contributed to it. It's unforgiving. sports when something like that happens, when you miss something in the big situation. And with LeBron James, do you think, guys, he thinks of that Dallas series still with all he accomplished? He probably is thinking about it. I should have had an extra championship. I should have taken charge. I shouldn't have deferred to, Dwayne Wade.
Absolutely, I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I'm sorry, B. Go ahead.
I mean, the Buffalo. I mean, at the beginning of the year, 32 teams. I'm going to talk NFL in this kind of language. The 32 teams are aiming to go to the Super Bowl, right? That's their focus. And two of those 32 teams are going to win. One of those two teams in the Super Bowl are going to win the Super Bowl. It ain't going to end a tie, that's for sure. So to get to that part of your team accomplishment to get in a Super Bowl is an achievement in itself. The Buffalo Bills did that 4 times in a row. So that's an achievement. Whether they lost or won, that's, winners win, losers come in second place. That's just how it works. I'm sorry to say that about Buffalo, but that's the ultimate goal, that you win it. But if you're not doing anything to improve, well, if you're not doing enough to improve to win that, then that's on your team. But you got to that pinnacle. And that's why I said accomplishments can be, you can say underachieve. I wouldn't say Buffalo underachieved in any of those years that they went to the Super Bowl. I wouldn't, because they went to the Super Bowl.
Well, let's take last year. Kansas City Chiefs losing the Super Bowl. They were trying to three-peat and make Super Bowl history. Now, was it a successful year? You better believe it was. They got to the Super Bowl, but then again, someone might say, but they didn't accomplish their goals, so you can't call it a successful year. I like what Whitey Herzog said, the old-time St. Louis Cardinal manager. They lost in the 7th game of the World Series. He said, I hope I lose in the 7th game of the World Series every year. That means how successful they would be. But there's nothing that substitutes for winning a championship. When they have team reunions, get the alumni together, they don't get it for coming very close. They get it for getting to the absolute pinnacle. I get all that.
I understand.
Hold on, you did just mention Kansas City. They didn't win last year. So it's disappointing, but not that disappointing. They won 2 prior to that. So yeah, they won 2 prior to that. So they can hold their head up high and saying that we got 2 out of 3. Yeah, it's impressive.
Like I said,
a successful year. They didn't quite meet their goal, but it was a successful year. Yeah. They don't look at it that way in Kansas City. They look at it as a failure because they didn't get over the top.
That would be like the Dallas Cowboys. That'd be like the Dallas Cowboys in the sense that they want, they always say they want to win every year, and they have that mentality because they were set up with that mentality, which is fine. I think right now, if you look at Dallas, the Cowboys, they're underachieving because they're not getting to that point that they feel they're underachieving because they're not getting to that point anytime. That would be a legitimate team you could say is underachieving because they've had teams that could get to the Super Bowl and just haven't done it. Now, going to the Super Bowl, regardless if you win or lose, and nobody's going to win, nobody's going to remember the loser, obviously, the Super Bowl, but the team itself at that time has achieved what they wanted to achieve. Yes, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but they got there. And that's the point I'm trying to make. I don't think when you get to a championship, you can say you underachieved unless you got smoked out of it. Like if you got beat like 4 games and none, and LeBron didn't have any of those games like that. Close.
Like you said, nobody's going to remember the number 2 guy, but this number 2 in particular, Buffalo, is remembered because they went to 4 straight and lost, and they even made a 30 for 30 for them. And remembered for the wrong thing, unfortunately.
But they remember. And it's just like Cleveland too. Those 2 championships you mentioned that they lost, they were going to remember for that too because they shouldn't have lost to Dallas. Everybody said they shouldn't lose to Dallas, and they lost to Dallas, and then they lost to a great San Antonio team. So you can't take that away from them. The other team's got to show up too. You're not going to just go out there and win a game just because you got big 3 people there and you did this and this in the season. It's not how it works. I mean, the 2004 Pistons are a big example of that. You got the Lakers out there, big Showtime Lakers, got every superstar on the planet on that team, and they got beat by the little minuscule Pistons. So championships are just made for it. If Buffalo hadn't learned after the first 2 times that they lost championship, they need to get better. Maybe it wasn't meant for them to win a Super Bowl. Maybe that's what it is. But they got there. And that's why their fans are loyal, because they've gotten there. They can see the summit of the mountain. And that's all they're looking to do. Yeah, they want to get to that point. They want to go to a Super Bowl and win. Yeah, they have that hunger. But I mean, I don't consider it underachievement for LeBron and those 4 championships, dude. I wish. Well, anyway, we have concluded this day of debate. Very good show, guys. Have blessed to have you guys on here, and we will be back tomorrow with the Big Football Show. Of course, Jack and Keith. Are you guys back on Monday, Jack?
Yeah, we're back. We came back yesterday. We're in overtime right now.
Okay, so Jack and Keith on the weekend playbook, and then of course at 7:00 with a special guest with him and Frank. And I'll leave it there. Everybody have a great football day and a great football weekend. Peace out.